Hello everyone at PharmaQuire. This is Pharmaco's in-depth analysis brought to you by your consultants, CyberTiger Security. We'll be going over our breakdown of the case and what you need to know before merging with Pharmaco. Rest assured, with strategic planning in place, we can take the correct steps towards a successful merge.
You here at PharmaQuire wish to merge with Pharmaco, a family-owned pharmaceutical company with complementary products to your own in a similar market capital. This merge could allow for greater cost synergy along with market stability and domination. The recent Pharmaco breach has made the merge more complicated. Pharmaco's management seems hesitant about merging now, and I'm sure the management here at PharmaQuire is worried about associating with a company that has recently been breached. Sometime in August, someone here at PharmaQuire approached Pharmaco to let them know that you were interested in merging. Now in September, during the Q2 meeting where they were discussing the merger, Paul William alerts CRO of the breach and ransomware attack. At the time, the identified lost items were 3 months of management emails. 2 days later, Pharmaco discovered 100 records of PHI had been stolen. And then 2 more days later, 4 days from the initial Q2 meeting, they discovered 200,000 additional PHI records were being sold on the dark web.
Using the cyber kill chain framework, we identified the cyber incident stages at Pharmaco. Initially, the attackers performed reconnaissance and scanning to find the target and plan accordingly. Then they deployed phishing attacks to gain access to the internal network, exploiting systems and network vulnerabilities. Using unauthorized access and stolen credentials, they obtained protected digital assets such as the Protected Health Information Database. To distract the cybersecurity team, they launched more phishing attacks, compromised executive accounts, and installed malware while extracting 200,000 records of data to their dark web server. Finally, they installed ransomware on several servers, interrupting business operations.
Attacks on Pharmaco. The attackers launched the reconnaissance operation months in advance. They used a mix of network and port scanning methods to identify hosts, devices, and services on Pharmaco's network. Data about services running on each device allowed the attacker to determine which vulnerabilities could be exploited. Pharmaco's firewall configuration failed to intercept and block malicious requests from the attacker, and their security team failed to detect any unusual traffic patterns during the recon period. Attackers were able to infiltrate Pharmaco systems via an elaborate phishing campaign and infect their customer database with ransomware. They stole anonymized PHI clinical trial records, breached executive email accounts, and listed over 200,000 PHI records for sale on the dark web. There was a 50% increase in reported industry phishing attempts compared to a 300% increase in internal phishing attempts reported by the Pharmaco cybersecurity team. Phishing is a social engineering attack aimed at stealing user data. Its goal is to get the user to unknowingly download malicious code onto their system. The attempts can be general or targeted, aimed at executives or specific individuals. Phishing attacks are an effective way to infect an entire company infrastructure with malware whose nature is to spread across file systems. One infected company PC can become an access point into the company's entire system. Malware and data breach. Malware spreads to internal systems and key infrastructure by hiding and duplicating itself within system files. Unfortunately for Pharmaco, their email servers, source files, databases, and backups were all compromised. A malware-infected website is also a big risk to Pharmaco users who can compromise their own systems by downloading malicious files posed as invoices or other file types. Ransomware was used to encrypt Pharmaco's internal customer information and extort funds in exchange for an encryption key that would help decode the encrypted files. Malware-infected systems communicate with the attacker's servers and deliver data hosted on those systems over the network. Rootkit applications are a type of malware that will typically include key logging functions which can transmit keystrokes of the infected PC to the attacker. In this case, an infected machine would assist in stealing key personnel credentials used to access sensitive data.
Now please allow us to present insights in Pharmaco's cybersecurity scorecard from the Q2 report. We confirmed that the identify and protect functions were at acceptable levels. However, detect and recover functions were in a low score range and response functions appear to be non-existent. That indicates these 3 functions were not available for organization with proper team support and they are not aligned with business goals and objectives. With such big gap in cybersecurity posture since Pharmaco's CISO was hired a year ago, we determined that Pharmaco did not take immediate actions on security weakness. In conclusion, this scorecard reflected lack of policies, procedures, and budget for companies' cybersecurity. By analyzing Farmacore's cybersecurity incident under people, process, and technology framework, we observed the following shortcomings. In people, employees were lack of cybersecurity awareness, ineffective communication between employees, and the cybersecurity team was incompetent. In process, the organization was lack of risk management on their assets, lack of security assessments to identify flaws timely, adequate response and recovery plan were not in place. In technology, system and software were outdated or misconfigured. In addition, access control and encryption were not the best practice to protect organizations' assets. Last, poor network segmentation, unable to prevent breach spreading across multiple networks. Next, we want to show the connections that we discovered between shortcomings, vulnerabilities, and consequences. Left side of column are the shortcomings we mentioned earlier. The columns in the middle show you the corresponding vulnerabilities exposed after each attack. Column on the right summarizes the consequences after each attack by adversaries on Farmacore's vulnerabilities. Understanding these connections will help Farmacore in assisting Farmacore for improving cybersecurity postures during the merger acquisition process. It is crucial to understand the damage from attacks in order to evaluate and predict current and future challenges. We provide you with a diagram which evaluates the severity of damage in each category by each attack. We evaluate severity in 4 levels with 4 colors. As you can see, every following incident was causing more damage than the previous incidents. This evaluation also reflected the poor cybersecurity posture in Farmacore, and it will influence process and the decision to the ongoing merger acquisition with Farmacore.
Understanding the consequences of a cyber breach and its effect on business is an integral part of Farmacore's process to assess Farmaco's current value. Farmaco must take into account the cost of corrective measures and loss of revenue should they continue to face cyber attacks and public scrutiny. This cost may incur millions in additional expenses, and Farmacore must keep that in mind when deciding to merge. As of today, some of the concerns Farmaco need to address are the possible legal repercussions, such as data security violations and civil lawsuits, along with the cost of investment towards reputational repair and security development. Should these be appropriately discussed and managed, Farmaco can be an invaluable asset to Farmaquire. It's important to recognize Farmaco's global presence as it is subject to data security laws in the case of a data breach. Companies with global assets must comply with the data security laws of countries where the affected individuals are located, and possibly the laws of the country where the company is based. Farmaco's research and development labs are primarily located in North America, the United Kingdom, and China, and they may face potential fines and legal consequences for failing to notify affected subjects within the required time frame after discovery of the data breach. Farmaco should know which regulatory laws are applicable to their business, as taking action quickly after the breach can prevent a number of potential violations. Farmaco's inadequate policy can be identified as malpractice or misrepresentation of their data security. An in-depth investigation by the FTC could expose Williams' underdeveloped cyber breach response plan and can lead to additional fines in North America, Europe, and Asia. Affected individuals should be notified now if not done already, as most notification laws require a breach notification within 72 hours or within reasonable time frame. As the window for this opportunity to notify these individuals have passed, Farmaco can be held accountable to regulations such as HIPAA Breach Notification Rule, Article 34 of GDPR, and DPA. The data theft and pending merger has leaked to the public, and we advise Farmaco to work quickly between crucial members of the board and media outlets in order to mitigate brand damage, negative coverage, and prevent loss of current or future partnership. Until the crisis is resolved, utilize the already drafted business plans and communicate openly and transparently with the public. Keeping them informed of developments through media platforms as maintaining public image and existing value are vital to reputational recovery. A story regarding information on the attackers provides a picture to tell, with Farmaco and their consumers as its victim. Farmaco should reinforce its reliability and double down on that by broadcasting the additional security measures they invest in and their pressing concern with the situation. To mitigate damage to brand and reputation, Farmaco should execute a response plan and follow an effective crisis management framework. Time is of the essence when it comes to breach information. Notify affected individuals of the breach and offer global credit monitoring services below to protect against information theft. Communication with key partners is essential, and Farmaco should communicate effectively with stakeholders, including investors, employees, and partners, to reassure them and maintain their confidence. Implementing data security should be a priority to improve Pharmaco's data infrastructure and policies. Employ management communication frameworks from NIST or follow the Data Breach Response Guide from IAPP. Advancing basic protocols including encryption, access controls, and employee training can create a clean, protected infrastructure and mitigate the risk of a future breach. Pharmaco should consult legal parties to adhere to laws in HIPAA or GDPR and conduct a multinational legal audit to prevent additional fines and/or reduce further legal actions. Lastly, network security can be improved by a mature integration of the NIST framework and incorporating a machine learning solution to establish a baseline of normal network activity, which would allow security teams to detect unusual device or port scanning activities. Taking these steps will show that Pharmaco is actively taking measures to protect their data security and address necessary sectors of the company, creating a strong and sustainable reputation and rebuilding trust with the consumers and partner over time.
One key issue that PharmaCoir will experience with a merger or acquisition with Pharmaco is the backlash of associating with a company that has currently been hit with a huge reputation and PR hit. Any resource that Pharmaco had, like suppliers, customers, or stakeholders, may be hesitant to continue working with a company that had a breach like this, even with an partnership with PharmaCoir. To combat this, PharmaCoir should make sure that they are effectively and consistently communicating with stakeholders about the merge and cybersecurity. Press conferences and managerial statements may be needed at each step of the process. Another key issue is that PharmaCoir will absorb all the liabilities relating to the breach. That include ransomware amounts, lawsuits, legal fees, and more. Estimates puts this amount at over $75 million. This ties into another key issue, where PharmaCoir will need to spend costs in order to fix Pharmaco's cybersecurity system, which could include very careful transferring of Pharmaco data onto PharmaCoir systems, or fixing whatever systematic issue Pharmaco's cybersecurity system has. While there are risk and negative factors with a continued acquisition or merger with Pharmaco, there is some opportunities. The breach and its consequences puts PharmaCoir at a distinct advantage when bargaining with Pharmaco. The reputation hit and financial hit means that Pharmaco has little bargaining power. And just like how Verizon merged with Yahoo after a breach, PharmaCoir could negotiate Pharmaco down to a lower purchasing price. Also, PharmaCoir's lowered financials means that PharmaCoir could perform a hostile takeover. This will be the only optimal opportunity, since typically PharmaCoir and Pharmaco stocks are at similar values. I believe that PharmaCoir should continue with the merger or acquisition despite the risk present. Acquiring Pharmaco will allow for future cost saving along with market dominance and security. The hit of reputation and PR will only be temporary and can be reversed over time with strong communication from PharmaCoir. PharmaCoir should keep in mind their power in this bargain due to Pharmaco's uniquely lowered status.
PharmaCoir should investigate Pharmaco's current security posture based on the NIST cybersecurity framework and determine where their own policies and procedures line up with it. While there are a variety of cybersecurity frameworks available, NIST is the framework Pharmaco currently uses. By reframing the policies within the NIST framework, PharmaCoir can make the merging process much easier. Even though PharmaCoir's cybersecurity posture was not highlighted in this investigation, they should still ensure that their own policies and procedures are up to date and properly implemented in preparation for the merge. There are several policies and procedures that PharmaCoir can verify are implemented for themselves and for Pharmaco within the framework. Once the merge is underway, PharmaCoir should integrate Pharmaco into their information security services. A soft integration would be the best approach here to ensure that each system or server transition is monitored to prevent information spillage and to catch any additional problems before they can affect the other systems. During onboarding, PharmaCoir should train the Pharmaco employees on the new cybersecurity policies and procedures, as well as general InfoSec best practices. This will help bridge the gap between the two companies' policies and ensure that all employees are well equipped to prevent, mitigate, and respond to any cybersecurity events. According to the Identify, Protect, and Detect sections of the NIST framework, PharmaCoir must determine if Pharmaco's IT architecture needs an overhaul. PharmaCoir management will need a solid overview of Pharmaco's IT infrastructure. This includes documentation on internal information flows as well as their information flows with external partners, current information security protocols and tools in place, system and user logs, communication channels, and physical access to restricted areas. Response and recovery procedures go hand in hand and should emphasize similar goals and protocols. PharmaCoir should be careful and eloquent in their public statements during the recovery phase to preserve their company reputation. The public relations policies and procedures should ensure that information sharing is accurate, complete, timely, and not reactionary.